Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Cronin, and I'm here to talk to you about a health crisis you're familiar with, and one that is impacting the entire world, but the United States more so than any other country. Before we dive into that, I want to give you some information on who I am and what I do. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Cronin. I've been a health and fitness expert for 7 years now and own my own small business called Cronin Athletics. I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, sports nutrition specialist, and a functional movement screener. My passion is being healthy and educating others in the topic as well, primarily athletes and sport teams, which is what brings me here today. I've been a health and fitness. We're going to be talking about obesity. As you see here, I have the word epidemic on this slide. I'm sure when you see that word or hear it spoken in the news or some other form, your attention is grabbed because it makes you nervous. It is not a word that we relate to fairy tales and sugar plums. We always use it to describe something bad. Epidemic is defined as affecting or tending to affect a disproportionately large number of individuals within a population, community, or region at the same time. That's straight from Webster's dictionary. The amount of people who are becoming obese and the ease in becoming obese has caused alarms to be sounded and interventions established. So, we're going to start here, where good habits can be taught young and can follow you through your entire life. Hopefully, you will pass this information on to another person, as I am to you now, and maybe you'll save a life, or at least extend one. So, what is obesity? Well, the CDC defines it as weight that is higher than what is considered as a healthy weight for a given height is described as overweight or obese. I think it's more easily stated as it's an excess of body fat. So, what is obesity? Well, the CDC obesity rates have continually gone up every year for over half a century. The data suggests that much of the issues began in the 90s, and if we look back to that decade, a few things happened that changed our society. The prevalence of quick, high-calorie fast food became more available. Video games were released on a more massive scale, bringing kids inside and making them sedentary. Increases in population led to cheaper, chemically modified foods that were and still are not healthy whatsoever. Obesity rates have. So, why are we getting bigger? If you look at the picture on the right, a prime example is the serving sizes and nutritional content of our food, and it's gotten worse. But not only that, our ability to stay active and its proximity to our home or work also plays a role. Honestly, how likely are you to go play outside or exercise if you have to walk, bike, or have someone drive you miles to get there? Additionally, the amount of money our parents make also plays a factor. Guess what? No surprise here. The cheaper the food, the less natural it is, and the worse it is for you. So, why are we getting bigger? If you look at reading a nutrition label is imperative to staying healthy. Too many times we assume and it bites us in our rear down the road, an effect known as creeping obesity. It is important to read the back of our packaging and understand what it all means, and I recommend you buy a food scale if you have difficulty understanding what a tablespoon of peanut butter looks like. If you weigh it, I bet your aha light will go off and you'll quickly see where additional calories come in and how easily. Now, if you look at the nutrition facts on our nutrition label here, we'll see the serving size is 1 cup. Okay, 1 cup of 228 grams, but the servings per container is 2. This means that there's 2 cups of servings in this container, but the nutrition label only states the calorie consumption, the total fat, the carbohydrates, the protein for one of those serving sizes. That's half. Now, if we look at the total fat, it's 12 grams. It's important to know that for every 1 gram of fat, that's 9 calories. Saturated fat is 3 grams. Saturated fat is an okay fat. It's not a great fat. Trans fats are not a good fat. Those are the kinds of fats that we want to stay away from. Our total carbohydrates, 31 grams. Dietary fiber, 0. We want dietary fiber in our food, okay? It is the fiber that is not stored by the body. It's broken down. So if we have, say, 5 grams of dietary fiber, but 31 grams of total carbohydrate, then that gives us 26 grams of carbohydrates that our body is going to utilize as energy and store. The other 5 grams that were lost to this is just burned off in our gut. We can also see that protein here is listed at 5 grams. That's pretty low. We don't know what this actual food is, but I can guess it's probably something like a bag of chips, judging by the low protein count, the high fat, and the high carbohydrates. So if we know now that our calorie content is 250 calories per serving, that's half of this container, 110 of that is from fat. That's almost half. Now with 9 calories per gram for fat, it's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, and also 4 calories per gram of protein. Sodium is something we're also going to want to take a look at. The American Heart Association recommends 2,000 milligrams or less in our daily diet. Now, you're getting here in just half of this container, a quarter of that, 470 milligrams. So that's something we have to be cognizant of also. So when you look to eat something and you're not sure if it's healthy or not, take a look at the nutrition label on the back. See what's actually in the container, what it's made of, what the breakdown is of what we call macronutrients. Those are your total fats, your carbohydrates, your proteins, and see how it'll impact your body. Because if you're taking in carbohydrates and a lot of them during the day, but you haven't necessarily earned them through activity, your body is just going to store them as adipose tissue or fat tissue. The type of diets that we really want to stay towards are high protein, moderate carbohydrate, and low fat. So here we see some contributing factors to obesity, and they include things like drinks high in sugar. We're talking about juices and sodas, foods low in fiber. We just talked about that in a previous slide about fiber and why it's good for you. Foods high in fat and low in protein, we also talked about that. And increased carbohydrate intake where there's no need. Again, if you're going to be taking in a lot of carbohydrates or calories in general, you want to make sure that you're earning them. And the best way to do that is through exercise and being active especially. Some things like poor sleep and little activity are also going to contribute to obesity. So what does obesity cause? It's going to cause additional diseases and complications, such as cancer, cardiovascular heart disease, high blood pressure. It's going to create more instances of inability to sleep. We call this sleep apnea. And also type 2 diabetes, to name a few. These are all really big issues, and they're really big diseases and sicknesses that people, I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything here, but I'm not also trying to scare you, but it is important that we recognize that these are things that kill people if it's not brought under control. And obesity is a cause of a lot of these issues. So what does obesity cause? I think we should also talk about the elephant in the room. Also, something that is a factor from obesity is depression. It's a large side effect for people who are obese. And in people with normal weight, fat tissue contains just fat cells. But in obese people, fat tissue is loaded with macrophages, which are cells that ingest pathogens and other foreign materials and release inflammatory hormones, such as what's called the TNF-alpha and interleukin-6. And these constantly activate the immune system at a low level, which contribute to a chronic inflammatory state. Additionally, stressful life events such as peer victimization and weight-based teasing might biologically predispose you guys to depression and may be a factor that leads to depression in all of you. I think we should also talk about the elephant. So, how are we going to combat obesity and stay motivated? Well, we're going to stay healthy, we're going to stay active, we're going to form good habits now. You don't become obese overnight, it takes months, and if not years of bad eating and a sedentary lifestyle. But know that it will also take that long to recover from it as well. So it is more beneficial and easier for you to promote good habits now. Eat healthy and be active the majority of the time, and you should be fine. I'm not saying you can't have the occasional Whopper Jr., but just know that it's not for every day. So, how are we going to combat obesity and stay motivated? So I know I started this presentation with a intro of who I am, but I'm going to end it and backtrack with who I once was. And it's important that we recognize who we once were so that we can continue on the path of where we've changed. And this is kind of a handrail for me to know that I don't want to go back to this. This is what the worst of me looked like, and I'm not about that life anymore. I know what it felt like, I know what I was experiencing, and it wasn't fun. And I know what I'm experiencing now, so we call it a handrail, especially if you're into orienteering or anything like that. So anyway, when I was about 18 years old, I knew I wanted to become a career firefighter. It's something I had been working on the years before that, and I was 300 pounds, but I was 6'6", 300 pounds. But it wasn't 300 pounds of lean muscle. It was 300 pounds of fat. And the football coach loved me nonetheless, obviously, because I was an immovable object on the field. But I was a walking coronary waiting to happen. And so basically medical doctors, as I was going through my life, had basically told me that I was walking around with a blood pressure of 180 over 100 daily, under no stress, and that I was in a very good position to have a stroke at any point in time. And they had contributed this to my lifestyle of video games and junk food, and that it had to be changed, especially if I had aspirations to become a career firefighter, because we, as career firefighters, have a higher incidence of heart issues than the rest of the population. So doctors have basically told me that, hey, we're going to diagnose you with high blood pressure if you don't get this under control, and it's going to disqualify you from being hired anywhere ever. And that was a wake-up call for me. Now, it wasn't what we call a Harajuku moment. Now, Tim Ferriss, if you've ever read his book, The 4-Hour Body, he talks about a Harajuku moment. And what he defines it as is a moment in your life in which you're ready for change, particularly physical change or a lifestyle change. And now this was a partial Harajuku moment, but it was only temporary. And what I mean by that is I had lost that 100 pounds to get me down to 200 and become very healthy prior to going into Proby school, to the Recruit Academy to become a firefighter. Now, I stayed healthy throughout that entire time. All right, it took me about a year to lose that 100 pounds. I was very dedicated to it, but if anybody knows any firefighters, I think that you can agree with me and know that we are extremely good cooks, and we cook large amounts of food. So, fast forward now a year and a half, that's that picture on the bottom left there. I'm about 19, 20 years old there, and I had gained 45 pounds or so on the job, off of what I had gotten on the job with. So here I am, back in that lifestyle again of eating like junk and not being as active as I should be, right? Because I'm in a caloric surplus, right? I'm taking in more calories than I'm burning. That's really important for maintaining your weight and your lifestyle. So I had decided that we were going to report a smoke in the building on the 6th floor of a building in our response area. And basically, by the time that we had gotten to the 6th floor, I was not able to perform my job. And the background on that is that you have to walk up the stairs the entire time, right? So we don't use elevators as firefighters primarily because they're just dangerous and they're very difficult to control. So a firefighter's gear with their air pack is an extra 100 pounds. Adding tools and hoses can equate to any more than 20 to an extra 100 pounds also. So here I am, 245 now, right? We add another 100 pounds on my gear. Now I'm a 345-pound frame, right? Walking upstairs. Then you're adding hoses and tools, and now I'm the young guy. I'm the young buck, right? I'm the rookie. I'm the probie. So I have the majority of the equipment that the other guys don't want to carry because they've been doing it for 10 or 15 years. So here comes my 345-pound self with another 50 pounds in gear and hoses. So now we're at almost 400 pounds. So it's 400 pounds of me walking up the stairs to the 6th floor. So I'm sure if you were in a gym and you put 150 extra pounds on a barbell and just did stairs, tell me how tired you would be by the time you got there while wearing a sweatsuit, right? Because your body is actively perspiring and creating heat, but you're not allowing that heat to dissipate and escape through sweat because your gear or your sweatsuit is holding it in. So by the time I got to the 6th floor, I was exhausted. I wasn't able to perform my job. I was ready to pass out, and I was a liability. I was the weakest link on the team. And I knew that the whole reason for me becoming a firefighter was to help people and be a part of that brotherhood, and I wasn't able to do it. And it honestly broke my heart, and it pissed me off at the same time. So that was my Hirajuku moment. Right then and there, I decided with myself that for the rest of my life, I was not going to become this weak link in my team. And I was going to lead a life of health and fitness. So I had signed up for for a triathlon, right, which led to an Ironman. And that's that picture in the very center. So that's me running an Ironman after several half Ironmans and such through the years. And on the right is me doing a marathon ruck march with a 70-pound pack through the Adirondack Mountains to support a couple veteran buddies of mine who are combat veterans. So what I found was that the human body is capable of doing extraordinary things, but it's not able to do them if you don't train it to do them. So my 240-pound frame there on the left would not have been able to do an Ironman or do a 27-mile ruck march with a 70-pound pack through the mountains of New York either. And what I feel now, what I felt then, doing those events, was addicting compared to what I felt in that picture on the left, which was slow and tired and unattractive. And, you know, we talked about depression in this presentation here, and I can honestly tell you that being overweight created a hunched over shoulders syndrome called upper cross syndrome, like a hunchback syndrome, because I was uncomfortable with the way that my body looked. So I would attempt to hide it by rolling my shoulders forward so that people couldn't see the outline of, you know, my fat underneath my shirt. And it led to a lot of self-esteem issues as well. So it's a real thing. So when you look at me, don't see me as now somebody who's 195 pounds, done an Ironman, you know, career firefighter, and all these other physical fitness accomplishments, you know, and now that it's my job that I do for extra work to pass this message along, but also see that it is possible for you to right the wrong as you go through life. Just know that you have to accept it as a lifestyle change. It can't be something that you make it as a yo-yo almost. And that's one of the big issues right now, is that people will begin a diet, they'll lose some weight, and then they go back to eating the same way they did before, and that weight creeps back up again. We call that yo-yo dieting, and it's actually just as bad, if not worse, for you than eating unhealthy and being sedentary all the time. So you need to honestly have that Hirajuku moment and want to change your life forever if this is a path that you want to go down. But I can tell you 100% certainty, I've been there, it is worth it. It is worth going through the change and sticking to a healthy lifestyle. Now, just as I said before, you can have your Whopper Juniors and you can have your Cokes and all that kind of stuff, but in moderation. Please stay healthy. Please stay active. Have a neutral calorie consumption. And what I mean by that is don't eat more than what your body is consuming. So if you're having a light day and you're not being very active that day, that doesn't mean that you should just gorge it out. Okay? 9 times out of 10, do not gorge it out. It's okay every once in a blue moon to go ahead and just have a rest day and want to sit in front of the TV and eat a bag of chips. I get it, right? That's life. But that isn't every day. So make sure you make honest, healthy decisions in what you eat and how much you eat in your daily life. All right? Thank you. So I know I started this presentation